Hello, and welcome back to Break Panel Sports. We're just going to get straight into it. I'm John, joined alongside Joel. First off, Joel, though, before we get straight into it, how we doing?
Doing good, man. We had a couple of moves, couple of controversies going on this past week. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a bit loaded. It's been a bit, we're going to actually debut, I guess, our NBA side of things. We do talk about the NBA a lot on here. We've done it before. You know, I don't know if we ever thought boxing would come first before the NBA, but we did it.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's been wild. But anyway, pretty big NBA news. So there's been, James Harden. I think we've told this story a million times, but in different fonts. But James Harden wants a trade. Oh my goodness. Let's all act surprised first.
Shocker.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, so he's had beef with Daryl Morey. We all know that. This is not new news, but it's also new news at the same time because this is the first time that we've really seen a player at a camp, his own camp in China. You know, you imagine paying for a basketball camp, right? And you want your kid to get better at basketball from an MVP in James Harden, and he's lecturing your children about how Daryl Morey is a liar and he will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Okay, that's what James Harden said. It was during an event, whatever it was. But yeah, I want to go watch James Harden play basketball. Oh, wait, he's telling me that Daryl Morey is a liar. It was interesting to say the least. You know, what are your thoughts on what he had to say about Daryl Morey?
So yeah, looking at how Harden has gone about his previous teams, seeing how he forced his way out of Houston, how he's forced his way out of Brooklyn, he's doing something very similar here in Philadelphia. I do not understand how teams are supposed to look at what he's been doing. I mean, it's not hard to find. It's all over social media now. And be like, that's a guy I want on my team. I would stay away from a guy like James Harden if I was a part of the Clippers, if I'm part of the Knicks. I've heard rumors about many different teams, maybe that he's going back to Houston. I don't want him. I wouldn't want him. I wouldn't want to deal with him. Not to mention his contract. I mean, this is just like so much red flags that goes on with James Harden, especially nowadays. And seeing this about how he talks about an owner that he's had for about a year? Not even?
Right. I mean, Morey was the GM of the Rockets when he was Houston. So he has a history with this guy.
He does. But it's just, I think he just handled about this like in one of the most like unprofessional ways you possibly could have. Because at least if he was just to say, you know, I want to trade, I don't want to be here anymore, and Philadelphia was still willing to refuse, in my opinion, it's like, okay, maybe you could force something in the midseason. Maybe you could have forced something with a team that's maybe in a rebuilding phase. Maybe you could have done something with a team that maybe is looking to add an extra piece and, you know, win a championship. We're not even talking about you as a basketball player anymore. We're talking about you as a person. Nobody wants to work with you. I wouldn't want to work with you. I would not want a James Harden on my team. I don't think a lot of people would.
And I mean, you look at, like, let's say I'm a general manager, right? And James Harden is now on the block. First up, you have to give us a ton of value up to get James Harden. It's not like he's some scrub. He's an MVP. I mean, it was a while ago, but he's still quite a great basketball player. He's one of the best players in the NBA. Yes, his talent.
You saw the package they wanted?
What was it?
I
didn't see it.
It was like, I think they wanted, like, as of right now, Philadelphia wants like 2 firsts and like a good player.
And that's the price you have to pay for James Harden. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head too. I guess you would not pay that price for James Harden.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't pay any price for James Harden.
I would struggle to just give up the picks.
Right, the 2 first-round picks. You know, we're seeing what a lot of great first-rounders coming out. I mean, James Harden's getting on the older side, and yes, again, still talented, but he hasn't been able to push a team really to a championship or anywhere close. I mean, he's gone to the conference finals with Houston, and that team, you know, lacked a bit of talent, but they got to Game 7. They just couldn't shoot the 3 ball against the Golden State Warriors in that game.
Oh my
but
God.
At the end of the day, that was a dumb game. That was one of the dumbest games I've ever seen in my life. But at the end of the day, James Harden hasn't been able to push a team to NBA championship success. And really, you know, even though that series did go 7, we knew the Warriors were going to win that game. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they haven't gotten anywhere close. I mean, we've seen the drama in Brooklyn. We've seen the drama with now the Sixers, and just everywhere he's gone, there's just been something. So if I'm a general manager and I'm sitting here saying, okay, who knows really what Daryl Morey has done? He could be a corrupt guy. You know, that's not, you know, that's up to them to figure out. But if I'm a general manager and do I want James Harden to come back at me and say I'm this liar, corrupt person? I don't know. I don't think I want to take that risk if I'm a general manager, and I don't know what team would really want to put James Harden on their basketball team right now. So it's going to be tough for the Sixers. I mean, there's a better guard on the market right now. There's a way better point guard on the market right now. His name's Damian Lillard. Okay, you're going to have to give up a lot to get that guy, but he's loyal. He's not going to pull any of this. So if Harden's going to go somewhere else, Dame has to go somewhere first. So I don't know what's going to happen. You could see a Ben Simmons situation because the Sixers are stubborn and don't like trading these kind of players, but we'll see.
Do you think that maybe I'm just throwing this out there because it probably is not going to happen. But do you think that maybe Philadelphia and Portland could be saying listen, we're both in kind of a similar situation here?
It's tough, maybe but why would Portland want to do that?
Why would
they have to give up young assets?
I would say if Portland was to get Harden and get, I don't know, maybe a couple of young people. I'm not sure what you would get for a Dame. I feel like Portland would have to get way more than Philadelphia is getting here. I would assume.
It would be mostly Damian Lillard and probably some pick swaps and all that fun stuff. It would just it's tough.
It kind of I'm mentioning it just because it kind of reminds me, and I'm not trying to discredit or disrespect Damian Lillard here. It just reminds me of a similar situation to Ben Simmons and Harden, with Brooklyn and Philadelphia, where listen, we're both in kind of a similar situations. Our guys don't want to be here anymore. We could just swap players and swap a couple guys, and literally both guys would be happy. At least a little bit.
Problem is that situation, right? I can see it's happening. I just don't think Portland will be smart to do it, right? Even if they do get some young assets, the Sixers don't have enough to give up for Damian Lillard. They could probably get a better package for Miami anyway, which is where he wants to go. But Brooklyn and Philadelphia at the time were both championship minded. They thought, okay, we can win a championship here. Portland knows that they're in for a pretty long rebuild, a decently long rebuild. Yes, they got some great talent. They got Scoot, they got Simons, but they still need to build that roster, build that core a little bit, and they need to do that without Dame. It's like a positive breakup they have to go through right now. And it's just what they have to do. So I don't see this being a nice match for Portland and Philadelphia. I can see Portland maybe trying to hold on to what star power they can acquire and say, yeah, we got some young guys. We got Scoot. We're good. But I think Portland's all in on rebuild mode, especially now that Dame is probably not going to be on the Portland Trailblazers anymore and should be headed over to Vice City. But it's not, I can see it maybe happening, but I just don't think that Portland should do it. Philadelphia, yeah, do that, but I don't think Portland should.
Either player, Dame or James Harden, do you think that there's a possibility that either of them would even think about holding out? I don't think
it's tough. So. It's tough. I think Dame is more likely to.
I saw a tweet the other day where it said if James Harden was to hold out, he would lose I'm estimating here, but it was somewhere around $300K a game that he misses, and I'm like,
right,
oh my god, talk about pettiness. I'm just play, dude. You're on a good team. He's on a good team too. It's not
Philadelphia wants on a rebuild. Right, it's not like Houston where the team stunk. We all were. Nobody had a problem with James Harden wanting out of Houston, and really not even that much with Brooklyn. Yes, it was dramatic, but okay, that team was falling apart.
His teammate literally won MVP.
Right,
his teammate literally won MVP. There's not a
they
bad
got
team
close. They got close. They had some good runs against Boston too. I don't know what James Harden. I guess he doesn't want to be with Daryl Morey. It has nothing to do with the performance of the team. It has to do with probably him trying to get a good contract, James Harden. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I don't know how this is going to end. But James Harden is kind of running out of time. His resume in terms of his exits is now getting to the point where he's a little older and it's affecting whether people want to be with him or not. So you might have to just kind of stick this one out with Philadelphia till the end of the contract so you go from there. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough for James Harden to go out and do that. But that's enough of James right there. Okay. So moving on to the gridiron after our James Harden discussion. Speaking of James, LeBron James had some things to say about the Dallas Cowboys. That has got brought up again. But what really happened with Dallas Cowboys is they finally don't have to worry about Ezekiel Elliott anymore. The Ohio State alum, a national champion, and a mid-running back for the Dallas Cowboys that got beat out by Tony Pollard is now heading to Bill Belichick and New England on a cheap deal. Finally found a home, finally found a team. And a team that wants him on their squad. And it's a story, but I feel like it's not as big of a story as we maybe expected. Yes, it's a good piece, New England's not a contender. There are three. They're probably the worst team in that division by a half decent margin. It's not like New England's bad. They're just not good. You know what I'm saying? They're in that average territory,
Right.
kind of where Ezekiel Elliott is right now in the world of running backs, kind of in that middle
The
tier
perfect
of
setting.
backs. It's just what it is. I mean, they're going to win, what, 8 games maybe? And Ezekiel Elliott, we'll see how much he plays. But Damon Harris is still kicking around. So, yeah, he's going to be a piece in a rotation, a piece in a backfield by committee at this point. And I got to ask you a question, Joel. Is Zeke washed up?
Absolutely. I don't even know why it's like a discussion at this point, because like,
Some people think he
listen,
still got it.
When we were talking about the start of the offseason and, Ezekiel Elliott getting released, it was brought up in discussions of, he has a good fit in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's
Right.
a good fit. Maybe he could talk about potentially joining the New York Jets. I don't know. Breece Hall, we don't know about injury concerns. We'll get into what actually happened with the Jets later. But looking at Ezekiel Elliott now, the move now is he's going to New England. First off, I don't think he's lasting too long there. I don't think he's going to last too long there. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to be comfortably taking that starting role. I will say, though, if Sooner, yeah.
Yeah, big Sooner. I loved him on OU.
If this man, Ramondre Stevenson, even gets like a third of the snaps, I think New England's going to see very quickly that clearly Ramondre is the direction to go in, and Ezekiel Elliott's going to be moved down to, I don't even know who the second string is. It still Damian Harris?
I believe he's still there. I'm gonna double check that.
Yeah.
That's just more on Damian Harris, I think.
I think Damian
He's on the
Harris
Bills now. That's what it was.
more.
I knew he wasn't on the Patriots. He's on the Bills now.
Right.
So it's gonna be Ramondre
He is
and
on the
Zeke.
Bills.
So Zeke is just Damian Harris at this point. Oh, he's going back to 15 though, so he's cool. But he's just
he is going back to 15. I saw that college number.
Which is cool. I mean, Zeke was an absolute baller in college, and he was always a baller. And we're just kind of making fun of how his career turned out. He made a great amount of money. He had some great years in Dallas, amongst one of the best offensive lines we've seen in a while. But as we've seen, I mean, Saquon Barkley and the Giants, I mean, their discussions have to look at this guy right here. And when you talk about contracts, I mean, this is the example of what happens to running backs. They kind of just pitter patter out, and it happens quick. I mean, it's really just like a night and day. It's like you wake up, snap your fingers, and the talent's just gone, or it just slowly fades away, but you see it coming from a mile away. I don't think that'll happen to Saquon, but it happened to Zeke, and it's happened to a ton of running backs, and now he's in New England in a non-win situation and wasn't even considered to be brought back by the Dallas Cowboys.
We have talked about this like so many times when it comes to running backs and like, their peak, when it comes to like, re-signing them when they're starting to approach their 30s. It's like, I don't know if it's a smart move. I don't know how good of a move it is. This is part of the reason why it's not a good move. Ezekiel, right. I mean, the Cowboys were so willing to just cut him, not trade him for anything. I don't even think he had any trade value at that point.
None.
Let him go. And then, I mean, I understand he got signed, but look how long it took for him to get signed. A running back of Ezekiel Elliott's caliber, you would think, oh, yeah, he's going to get picked up within like a week, 2 weeks. It took, what, months? Like 2 months at least?
Yeah. It took a while. I mean, the season started in a month. The season starts in a month.
Yeah. It took like almost 2 months. And I'm like, looking at him now and seeing the situation that he's in, I mean, good luck to him. I think it's a good move for Zeke to even be on a team. It's good for him to at least like be part of an organization that is not necessarily relying on him, if that makes any sense.
Right. There's no pressure on Zeke, I feel.
No, there's zero pressure on him. I don't think there's any pressure at all. But when it comes to it as a move for the Patriots, that's where I'm struggling. Like, I don't see why you had to do this move. This seems kind of weird. I don't like. That's just me.
This is also Bill Belichick we're talking about. He sees talent. He's like,
oh, yeah.
He's like, yeah, we'll give him a shot. Okay, we'll see what happens here. So that's Bill Belichick. That's the Patriots, whatever. I don't think we're really going to think about this too much more. But moving on to running back signing that I think actually matters quite a bit. You have Dalvin Cook heading over towards the New York Jets, and he took about as long of a time to sign with the team. However, Dalvin Cook, based on last season, what we saw, he's still got something left in the tank for sure. He's 28. Obviously on the wrong side. It's what 28 for a running back kind of feels like 34 for a quarterback at this point. But regardless, right? 28-year-old running back, still got plenty of talent, and he's in a great system. Dalvin Cook signing with the New York Jets. And you mentioned Breece Hall. You mentioned, a lot of running backs coming back from ACL injuries. You saw it with Saquon. I'm not a hater of Saquon. You're just such a great example of what a running back story is. He's gone through everything at this point for a running back when you think about it. But, Dalvin Cook's also been through the ACL situation. So Breece Hall should be able to get some good advice from him as well. But Dalvin Cook is kind of filling in that starting role, one would imagine. Zeke's not really sliding in as a starter right away. Dalvin Cook feels like a starter, especially if Breece Hall isn't going to be the guy right away. He's still recovering. They can maybe even sit him for a couple weeks if he still needs it. And you also picked up a great guy in Israel Abanikanda. You have Michael Carter, who's a phenomenal receiving back. So the Jets, to me, might have the best running back room in the NFL now. I mean, in terms of just totality. Right? Maybe not the star power, but if Breece Hall is anywhere close to what he was, this is the best running back room in the NFL this year. I mean, it's insane. This just kind of felt like a luxury. It felt like a yacht getting a new whistle to this running back jet running back room. To me, that's what it feels like to me. I don't know what you think, Joel. We haven't really talked about Dalvin Cook too much, but I still see him as a star in the NFL. I mean, maybe on his last couple of years of being one, but I think this is huge in terms of their offense.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Dalvin Cook from 2 years ago to last year, you can see the dip.
Yes, absolutely.
You can see the little bit of regression in his, especially his burst. You can see just by watching him, he looks a little slower, just a little bit. Maybe it's a lot more easier for guys to tackle him than it was 3 years ago. Look, you could tell that the regression is there now.
And he just had surgery in the offseason for his shoulder, by the way.
No, yeah, I know. But, I do think the move was good for Minnesota because I do think Alexander Mattison is going to have a really good year this year. That's just me. I'm really high on Alexander Mattison. And I understand why Minnesota would let Dalvin Cook go. Now, looking at it from the New York Jets side of things, I think it's more so just as an insurance policy for if Breece Hall is not exactly a 100%. That's what I think this is about. Now, like you said, they have a fantastic running back room. And I think what they're trying to do is just make sure no matter what, because the problem last year when they had to go pick up James Robinson was we can't run the ball. We're literally we needed Breece Hall. Now that he's out, you could just see the difference in our team now. We want to make sure this doesn't happen again, especially at least just not this year. We want to make sure that does not happen again, that we are prepared for every situation that could possibly happen. That has been the Jets' go-to plan this entire offseason, making sure that there is a backup plan to every single position on the field. And running back, I feel like they're just, adding more juice to their firepower. That's all I really think they're doing. You know what I mean?
And he's great in the receiving game as well. So you kind of have Dalvin Cook and Michael Carter pairing well with each other, and Breece Hall and Abanikanda pairing well with each other. So it's a really great room.
You see Aaron Rodgers and how he was playing with the Packers, especially with guys like Aaron Jones. He loves the pass catching running backs. He likes settling for the screens. He likes that stuff. And now with Michael Carter, now with I know you mentioned his name. I'm gonna butcher it. It's the rookie, right? Israel
Abanikanda. I believe I'm saying that correctly. I'm 90% sure I am. I did watch the draft. I heard them say his name. ESPN could have got it wrong too.
I saw his name and I was just like, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah. I mean, Abanikanda. It's not too hard to say.
But the point is, they did add juice to a position that they were struggling with last year, and I'm not gonna hate on them for that. I do think getting Dalvin Cook is a plus. I think it's a luxury. I don't think getting Dalvin Cook was necessarily a necessity for them. I think if they went into the season without Dalvin Cook, they'd still probably be. I mean, we talked about the Jets not too long ago where we were saying that they were going to be Super Bowl favorites.
In my head, I was assuming they'd make this signing though. That's kind of why I said that, because I think Dalvin Cook gives you a whole new level.
It still stands though. It still stands because
it's even more now.
God forbid if something was to happen to Breece Hall, now you have the backup plan. and there's a backup plan to the backup plan, and there's a backup plan to the backup plan. You get it. You're looking at this, and it's like, okay, the Jets are playing this very smart. Dalvin Cook gets the contract that he wants. I believe he signed for $8.6 million. It was a deal that could be up to 8.6 mil, right. Which you finally come to that agreement. I believe the other team that was in contention were the Dolphins. I believe it was the Dolphins
were heavily rumored. They were favored for a bit to get Dalvin Cook, and then
because he's from Florida,
right?
The Florida guy.
I mean, a dog at Florida State. I mean, he was something else. He was in the same draft as Zeke, I believe, and I was the one saying that he was going to be better than Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, look who's getting more money in 2023, not by a huge margin, but yeah, that was fun. But I think Dalvin Cook again has a whole another level to the offense. I will say though, you mentioned the Jets having a backup plan for every position, and I will say they're missing a backup plan at one key position, and that's quarterback, right there. Teddy Bridgewater on the market.
Well, Zach Wilson's not all that.
I mean, we watched him play, right? We watched him play. Zach Wilson, to be fair.
Hey, preseason, he threw that bomb. You saw that?
He threw one pass.
He threw a bomb.
Jet fans, go crazy. You're the quarterback of the future. I saw a Zach Wilson jersey. I've seen so many Zach. So we're Jersey guys, right? So I see so many Zach Wilson jerseys in the mall. If I ever go, I mean, they're intensely populated with Zach Wilson jerseys. Some of those sports stores. I saw one for $45. A real Zach Wilson jersey for $45.
$45.
I considered it. The person I was with was saying, "Wow, that's cheap for the quarterback of the future." And I said, "Please, no." We'll see what Zach Wilson does, though. I think if you put Zach Wilson on this team right now, I'm not saying that I don't even think they make the playoffs. But if that's what happens, what happens? This is the Jets. Anything can go wrong, and I know we say this about the Cowboys, but what can go wrong with the Jets will most likely go wrong with the Jets. But what didn't go wrong was you decided to listen to this podcast. Thank you very much for listening, watching, however you do it, by the way. Have a great one.